Gambia's government orders suspension of license of the suspected pharmacy and importer of the paracetamol syrup amid acute kidney injury outbreak. Africa CDC conducted a training for 15 West African health journalists on community engagement and risk communication strategies on vaccination against COVID-19. And South Sudan is widening its surveillance after the deadly Ebola disease has been reported in neighboring Uganda. These and more coming your way on The World Today. Hello, this is Eyeafrica TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. This is Eyeafrica TV and many thanks for joining us. Let's now look at the news in detail. Now, and we begin with health-related matters here in the Gambia following his address to the nation on the outbreak of the acute kidney injury that claimed the lives of more than 60 children. President Adama Barrow has authorized the Medicine Control Agency through the Ministry of Health to suspend the license of the suspected pharmacy and importer of the paracetamol syrup. The Aki outbreak has generated chaos in the country, leading to people calling for the resignation of the health minister and the WHO warning other countries to suspend the said syrup. The government has also ordered for the review of the medicine and other health-related acts, among others. Mariama Cham reports.
The president has not only ordered for the review of the Medicines Act but also ordered the suspension of the license of suspected importers and pharmacists. Additionally, President Adama Barrow has directed the foreign minister to reach out to the Indian ambassador to the Gambia for consultation on the government's most profound concern over the issue. The Gambia Police Force has also announced the launch of an investigation into the deaths of these children. As a further course of action, the suspected pharmacy owner and importer of the drug syrups as well as senior officials of the Medicine Control Agency have been called for questioning by the Gambia Police Force to assist in their investigation. On Saturday evening, the health minister convened a press conference blaming the WHO that they did not follow due processes in sharing their investigations. The presidency is reassuring the families and the public of its commitment to do all it can to get to the bottom of the Aki death cases and possible remedies to avoid its reoccurrence. However, investigations on the Aki outbreak are still on the way in order to have clear information on the main causes of the deadly Aki, which has so far killed over 60 children in the Gambia. Reporting for Eyeafrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
And from that health-related report here to Mariama Cham, let's stay with health matters though, because the Africa Center for Disease Control has just ended the training of 15 West African health journalists on community engagement and risk communication strategies on vaccination against COVID-19 in the capital city of Benin, Cotonou. The training held from October 3rd to 7th is aimed at increasing the knowledge of West African health reporters on health-related matters, particularly COVID-19 vaccination and ways and manners to eradicate vaccine hesitancy. Mafuji Sese has the details.
The 15 journalists from West Africa received training on community engagement and risk communication strategies on vaccination against COVID-19. Speaking to the West African Health Reporters, Advocacy and Communication Officer, Madam Lilian Bilogoho, says the training is important because her institution is with the intention to have 60% of the African citizenry reach collective immunity, adding that it's important to capacitate health journalists to communicate better.
The 15th country of the Western region, so Togo, Benin, Dakar, Senegal, Gambia, Liberia, Sierra Leone. I forgot a lot, but yeah. We're talking mostly about vaccination, COVID-19 vaccination, and how to counter misinformation and disinformation. Specifically. Okay. It's important because Africa CDC, we have a vision to vaccinate like 70%, 60% of our population, to reach collective immunity. Okay, so this is important for Africa CDC to capacitate journalists to communicate better and improve. We are here to help. So anytime you have like needs, Africa CDC is here to help. Okay, so we have the tools. We're gonna during the workshop, we're gonna show you the tools you need to have like scientific information and scientific response to misinformation.
This information understood as false information deliberately and spread in order to influence public opinion or obscure the truth, and infodemic, which refer to the rapid spread of information, both accurate and inaccurate, in the age of the internet and social media. Lead trainer Dr. Albert Maya Dibaya says these two can be dangerous.
Essentially, because if people doesn't get that information, they don't get a good decision for their own health. Maybe they can use the medicine or techniques that are not right, and they are putting their life in danger. It is very important to deconstruct misinformation, to give right information at the right time, to make sure that people can get the good decisions for their own life, and make sure that they will save their life for themselves and the people they love.
Dr. Amadou Cisse, Africa Center for Disease Control, highlighted that the Gambia and Sierra Leone are among the countries that objected against sharing COVID-19 data to the African Center for Disease Control for analysis, despite the importance of data sharing for Africa CDC to countries determine the next step. He said failure to do so deters countries these opportunities. Vera Okeo, trainer, urged participants to know the health system of their countries, saying this will avail them to report on health care-related matters. Participants vow to use their pens to change the narrative in health reporting in their countries, particularly in COVID-19 related matters. It is the intention of the Africa CDC to have every African citizenry vaccinated against the deadly COVID-19. COVID-19 outbreak has shaken health systems around the world, including that of developed countries, and Africa, having been characterized by the worst health care system, is not an exception to this. The Gambia, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Senegal, Nigeria, Togo, and Benin are the countries that benefited from this training. Mafuji Cisse, Eyeafrica News, reporting from Cotonou, Benin.
Yes, our very own Mafuji Cisse was part of the Gambian journalists who were in the, of course, in Cotonou to attend the Africa CDC training on COVID-19. Now, elsewhere in the continent, Nigeria is witnessing an entrenched trend where skilled young people armed with the internet and a smartphone can earn money, mostly in foreign currency, by doing remote work for companies. The gig economy is part of the labor force that comprises workers who can earn or who earn money from short-term contracts or freelance work rather than full-time jobs. With this, many have taken to websites that connect them with freelance jobs. Let's have more details of that in this report.
21-year-old Catherine Jonathan visits this workspace to type Java codes and build online applications for corporate organizations and businesses. She has been doing so for the past year and says she has no intention of seeking an office job with a 9-to-5 contract.
We need a work-life balance, and my kind of job, it's giving me that I get to do other things aside what is paying for the bills. So it's not just about work. All you need to do is plan. I'm currently working with a company in the UK, and it's flexible. I can also work for different companies. So aside the company in UK, there's also a company in Nigeria I'm working for or with anyone. So yeah, it's both remotely, and it's been amazing.
Catherine is just one of many young Nigerians who are educationally qualified for 9-to-5 jobs but are opting for the gig economy. According to Nairametrics, 70% of professional employees that fall within the age of 21 to 25 years, also known as Gen Z, will not stay on a job for more than 2 years. It says this is because the younger generation of professionals is always looking for a more challenging opportunity. On the other hand, the report says 59% of employees between the age range of 26 to 40 otherwise referred to as Gen Y or millennials, are willing to work in one organization for 3 to 5 years. IT experts say the gig economy is relatively new in Nigeria but gaining pace. They say the outbreak of COVID-19, technological advances, unemployment, the quest for higher wages and flexible job schedules are all reasons behind Gen Z's dumping 9-to-5 jobs.
It is actually thriving now because we have technology is actually driving from almost every process in any business in our lives, in our businesses. You know, a lot of young people, I think even during COVID, even before COVID, a lot of them started taking, you know, 1 or 2 skills in ICT, you know, when the jobs are not there. And at the end of the day, they realize that I can actually get a job. It's very, very flexible. And sometimes you can even be the boss of yourself because most of the company will say, hey, you can work with little or no supervision, you know, as long as you have the prerequisite skill set.
Nigeria is still battling a challenge of unemployment. The country's Bureau of Statistics says unemployment in the country rose to 33.3% last year, translating to 23.2 million people, the highest in 13 years and the second highest rate in the world, next only to South Africa. Technology experts say the government needs to encourage more young people to embrace the gig and digital economies so as to contribute more to the country and reduce unemployment.
So it is the future. You know, so if I would call it the future of work, and it's already catching up with a lot of people. Now, the beauty about it is that we're just scratching the surface of the opportunities we're going to be getting in this digital space. We're just scratching the surface. A lot of young people are keen into it, but I think the growth is kind of slow, and the reason is that the government are not really providing that avenue for young people to, you know, to actually thrive. For example,
the government has launched a digital innovation, entrepreneurship and startup policy. It comprises key 5 areas: advancing human capital, unlocking access to capital, enabling infrastructure, boosting demand and promoting innovative entrepreneurship. The government is also collaborating with China to train over 30,000 young Nigerians on digital skills and projects to increase internet reach and use by at least 90% of all citizens by 2025. Young people in Nigeria hope that will turn things around and reposition the country into a more sustainable economy.
Moving on, the Food and Agriculture Organizations of the United Nations, FAO, has reported that the benchmark for world food commodity prices declined for the 6th consecutive month in September. The index tracks monthly changes in the international prices of a basket of commonly traded food commodities. The FAO Food Price Index averaged 136.3 points in September, down to 1.1% from August, while remaining 5.5% higher than its value a year earlier. Let's have more details of that in this report by Maria Machan.
The gauge for world food commodity prices declined for the 6th month in a row in September, with sharp drops in the quotations for vegetable oils more than offsetting higher cereal prices, according to a new report released by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Since early 2021, farmers have struggled to cope with rising costs of fertilizer, with prices in some areas increased by more than 300% before the war in Ukraine. Higher prices on the production side have forced farmers to increase their crop prices. Briefing journalists in New York on Friday, FAO's chief economist Maximo Torello said the decline is driven by the fall in the world prices of vegetable oil.
The index fell in September for the 6th consecutive month after an all-time high that was reached in March 2022. The decline in September was driven by another significant fall in the world prices of vegetable oils, together with moderate declines in those of sugar, meat, and dairy products. By contrast, the price sub-index for cereals increased in September. With this new decline in September, the food price index of FAO is down 14.6% from its peak in March. However, it still remains 5.5% above its value a year ago. This is in September 2021.
Torero said what the world is witnessing this year is not food access crisis, but a food availability crisis. Torero adds that the increase in fertilizer prices on the rising market is also a concern.
What we had this year was a food access crisis, was not a food availability crisis, despite of the war in Ukraine. In terms of food access, still we have a problem because the poorest countries are still not being able to afford those commodities. For the 2022-2023 season, we have a serious concern because of the substantial increase in the price of fertilizers, because of the challenges we are seeing on rice market, which is not only affected by the fertilizer price increase, but also of what is happening in Pakistan, which is the fourth exporter of rice, India rice in the world.
The index tracks monthly changes in the international prices of a basket of commonly traded food commodities. The economists explained that the organization's concern is the production of 2022 and 2023.
First, lower world prices generally reflect better availability at the global level. However, it has not led to better food access for low-income countries. This is due to several factors, including the high cost of processing and transportation, logistics, and the depreciation of the currencies against the US dollar. World prices of energy and gas remain high, reducing fertilizer affordability and increasing production costs, adding serious challenges to the production of 2022 and 2023, which is right now our major concern, given this could put at risk food availability in 2022-2023.
45 countries around the world, including 33 in Africa, 9 in Asia, 2 in Latin America and the Caribbean, and 1 in Europe require external assistance for food, according to the latest Crop Prospects and Food Situation Report, a quarterly publication by FAO's Global Information and Early Warning System. Multi-year droughts have endangered a grave food insecurity situation in East Africa, with famine expected in parts of Somalia unless humanitarian assistance is scaled up. High inflation rates, challenging microeconomic environments, and depreciating currencies are aggravating food insecurity conditions in low-income food deficit countries. Reporting for Eyeafrica News, I am Yahya Jammeh.
This is Eyeafrica TV, and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin, coming to you live from our studios in Banjul and from the report here by Yahya Jammeh. We now take a break and come back shortly. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back, and this is Eyeafrica TV, and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin, coming to you live from our studios. Once again, many thanks for joining us. Let's now look at the rest of the stories. Now, the government of Ghana has increased the cocoa pop producer price by 21% for the 2022-2023 cocoa season, while the farmers were demanding for 30% increment. Despite not meeting up farmers' expectation, the government had sought for financial support to further boost the cocoa production in the West African country. Now, announcing the new price, Food and Agriculture Minister said the Producer Price Review Committee considered a range of factors before arriving at the new price. Here's more details of that in this report.
Farmers in Ghana wanted a 30% increment for the price of a bag of cocoa beans this year, but the government has increased it by 21%, which is from $62 per 64 kilogram of cocoa beans to $75. It says it could not increase it further due to the weakening cedi against the US dollar.
Within the Ghanaian space, a lot more is done for the cocoa farmer, and it is not just the farm gate price the farmer receives. Seedlings are supplied to farmers in Ghana for free. Farmers get extension service paid for by Ghana Cocoa Board. These farmers get fungicides, pesticides, among other services paid for.
Ghana's currency, the cedi, has depreciated by about 40% since the beginning of this year. While the economy has taken a hit, the government has now secured over $1 billion cocoa syndicated loan to shore up its revenues. It hopes to use the loan to also boost the production of cocoa in the new crop season.
The funds are generally for the purchase of cocoa, but other industry activities, buying the fungicides, the chemicals, the fertilizers to support the cocoa farmers. Certainly, with the coming in of the money, Cocoa Board is able to do that on time, such that it facilitates the work of the farmers.
But not all farmers are happy about the increment of the price of cocoa beans. Some Cocoa Farmers Association have raised concerns that members may smuggle their beans to neighboring Cote d'Ivoire, which buys a bag at $80. In the last crop season, Ghana failed to meet its target of producing 950,000 metric tons of cocoa. It produced about 820,000 tons. The government blames the shortfall in the last crop season on a number of factors, including bad weather. In the next crop season, Ghana hopes to produce 850,000 metric tons of cocoa. It believes this year's weather has been better, and that would benefit crop production.
Back here in the Gambia, slaughter operators at the central abattoir in Abuko adopted manual operation since the semi-automated meat overhead rail system became dysfunctional so many years ago, leaving the operators with limited options to do their work. Manual operations uses hygiene and waste management practices despite being highly necessary to minimize the harmful effects of abattoir waste. Moses Emendi has the details of that in this report.
The spoilage of the semi-automated meat overhead rail system of the central abattoir in Abuko more than 5 years ago has forced butchers to adopt a manual operation mode, which on the other hand is termed physically demanding. It also minimizes hygienic and waste management practices at the slaughterhouse. With a functional overhead meat rail system, the animals are slaughtered and hoisted off the ground to the rail for flaying, eviscerating and splitting, but such has not been the case since the rail system got spoiled years ago. This has prompted all the processes to take place on the floor of the slaughterhouse, staining it with blood and animal feces. Madi Kuyate is the manager of the central abattoir in Abuko, and he shares how the mode of operation at the slaughterhouse changed.
This abattoir was built since 1978 or so. Since then, when it started, almost all the facilities were automated or semi-automated. But as I am talking to you today, everything in the abattoir is manual. Everything is manual. The slaughtering is manual, the flaying is manual, the rails are not working. You see, so at least now, and government is aware that these things are happening. So the best that they could do is to make sure that we have a sort of abattoir that can be ranked with other developing countries as how they are operating. And government is on the track.
He revealed a government plan to build a state-of-the-art abattoir in the Gambia, and also highlighted the increased number of unregistered slaughter operators using the slaughterhouse as a challenge. Tijan Jai, the chief butcher at the abattoir and one of the longest-serving operators, shared his experience on the usual work routine since he began working at the abattoir in 1994.
Usually what we do with the rail is that after slaughtering the animal, we clip the hind limbs and the rail will lift it up, and the two people standing overhead will push the carcass to the next level on the rail, where someone will eviscerate the animal and remove the inner organs, after which the person will forward it to the hall through the rail. Then we will unclip the animal from the rail and bring it down, then load it into the car.
Mr. Njai said they now apply manpower, which is very hard, while outlining heightened challenges as a result of power outages, lack of water supply to clean the once very tidy abattoir. Multiple failings in the slaughter process result in meat contamination and allow the transmission of diseases. The inadequate infrastructure and poor hygiene calls for the government's intervention to either upgrade the abattoir or construct a new one to prevent contamination of meat that eventually goes into the consumer market. Moses Imendi, Eyeafrica News.
Well, we hope immediately after this report, the government or the ministry responsible would immediately do something to improve the standard of the abattoir in Abuko. Finally, the government of South Sudan said it is stepping up vigilance along its borders following the outbreak of the Ebola in Sudan Strait in neighboring Uganda. Authorities of the North African country have initiated plans, including forming a task force committee to deal with Ebola while outlining precautionary measures. The government also said it would partner with the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, to promote public awareness of the Ebola virus disease. Let's have more details of that in this report.
There are currently 5 suspected cases of Ebola in the country, according to South Sudan's health ministry. The government says 2 samples taken to South Africa earlier have tested negative. However, the health ministry says a 35-year-old man who presented signs and symptoms of Ebola virus disease has died at the country's Juba Teaching Hospital in the capital.
It seems the Ebola is threatening South Sudan. As you know, we are too open to Uganda, and I think more than Kenya.
There are also suspected cases of Ebola at the border of South Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. South Sudan's government has approved $30 million for an emergency for Ebola.
What we are doing are precautionary measures. We are making measures, protective measures, and preparing ourselves for any unforeseen eventualities. We are preparing ourselves so that we control the borders, so that we are prepared to check everybody coming in from any direction.
President Salva Kiir has now formed a high-level Ebola task force comprising 7 ministers to fully prepare to respond to Ebola. The task force will also carry out an assessment and establish isolation centers equipped with medical personnel and medicines in states bordering Uganda, Democratic Republic of Congo, and in the capital, Juba. The World Health Organization ranks South Sudan as one of the countries with the most underdeveloped health infrastructures in the world. The country's health ministry says it is doing all it can to ensure that Ebola doesn't come to South Sudan, or if it is already confirmed to already be in the country, then it promises that it will ensure it is contained.
And from that health-related report there, from South Sudan's capital, Juba, we now bring this news edition to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit on our website on Eyeafrica.tv. But for now, many thanks for the privilege of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and do have a pleasant evening. Bye for now.